All right, today we're digging into the very first chapter of E. Nesbit's absolute classic, Five Children and It. We're going to explore this amazing story about five totally ordinary kids, their extraordinary discovery, and how their very first wish teaches them a huge lesson about being careful what you wish for. You know, this line from the book just gets right to the heart of it, doesn't it? Before any of the magic kicks in, you really have to understand why these kids are so desperate for a change. For them, London isn't some wonderful city. It's a place with endless rules, restrictions, and invisible do not touch signs everywhere. This sets the stage perfectly for their escape to the countryside, which, to them, feels like pure freedom. And this contrast is just everything to their experience. Think about it. London is all uniform and confining, just straight lines and brown grass. But the country, that's liberating chaos. It's variety. It's freedom. For these kids, even a simple kind of rundown house feels like a fairy palace because it represents a world with endless possibilities. So let's meet our heroes. You've got Cyril, Anthea, Robert, Jane, and the baby who they all call the Lamb. They show up at this place, the White House, out in the country, and to them, it is literally paradise. It's not really about the house itself. In fact, their parents find it pretty inconvenient. It's all about the space, the nature, and the freedom to just go explore. Things that were completely impossible in their London life. So with all this newfound freedom, what's the very first thing they do? Well, they head to an old gravel pit with their shovels. And their mission is just so wonderfully childlike. They're going to dig a hole straight through the earth all the way to Australia. It's this simple, imaginative game that leads them completely by accident to a discovery that is going to change everything. So Anthea, who's determined to finish the job, keeps digging deeper and deeper. And then suddenly she just screams, "It's alive. It'll get away." Yeah, they haven't found Australia. They've found something ancient, something furry, and something very, very much alive. And this is what they unearthed. It's not a rat, it's not a snake. It's this incredibly bizarre creature. It's got eyes on long stalks like a snail, ears like a bat, this furry spider-shaped body, and little monkey hands and feet. I mean, it is unlike any fairy they have ever read about, and the description is just so vivid and wonderfully strange. And its personality is just as strange as it looks. This is one of the very first things it says, looking down its nose at Jane's hat. So right off the bat, you know this is not some friendly, sparkling fairy. No way. It's ancient, it's irritable, and it is completely unimpressed by these modern kids who have just woken it up from a sleep that's lasted thousands of years. The creature finally tells them its name. It's a Psammead. And here's a really cool little detail. Nesbit brilliantly grounded her made-up creature in real language. Psammead actually comes from the Greek word samos, which means sand. So it's literally a sand thing, a sand fairy. So the Psammead gives them this quick history lesson from like the dawn of time. Back in its day, children were wishing for giant megatheriums for dinner. We're talking prehistoric sloths the size of elephants. And this introduces a critical rule of its magic. Any wished-for thing that's left over at sunset turns to stone. Now, this is a huge piece of foreshadowing that the children, in all their excitement, don't quite pick up on. After a bit of convincing, the very out-of-practice Psammead agrees to grant them one wish a day. Now, you would think the children, who have probably talked about this exact scenario a million times, would have the perfect wish ready to go. But nope. With the chance suddenly right there in front of them, their minds go completely blank. In a total panic, Anthea just blurts out a private wish she and her sister had always talked about, to be as beautiful as the day. It sounds so lovely, right? So innocent, so harmless. It's a purely positive wish. They just want to be beautiful. What could possibly go wrong? And just like that, poof, the wish comes true. The Psammead swells up, lets out a big sigh, and the world just kind of shifts. The children look at each other, and they realize they are standing with four complete strangers. They have become radiantly, unbelievably beautiful, and totally unrecognizable, even to themselves. The consequences hit them immediately, and they are disastrous. First, their own baby brother, the Lamb, screams in terror because he has no idea who these beautiful people are. Then, they get home for dinner, and the nursemaid Martha accuses them of being strange kids and literally slams the front door on them. In just an instant, their harmless little wish has made them homeless, hungry, and completely alone. Their rejection is just total. When Robert, who now has this beautiful dark hair, tries to sneak in through a back window, Martha just sees a strange Italian monkey and dumps a whole jug of cold water on his head. So their beauty hasn't made them admired at all, it has made them outcast. So the rest of the afternoon is just miserable. They're huddled in a ditch, starving, and now they're terrified by a new thought. What if, like those leftover megatheriums, they turn to stone at sunset? The relief when the sun finally sets and the magic just fades away, well, you can imagine. It's immense. They are back to their normal, freckled, ordinary selves. The lesson they've learned is captured so perfectly when Anthea looks at her brother's familiar face and says, "Oh, Cyril, how nice and ugly you do look." After a whole day of being perfectly, alienatingly beautiful, his ordinary freckles and brown hair are the most wonderful sight in the world. Their entire perspective has been flipped completely upside down. And just like that, they've learned their first and probably most important lesson about magic. It's not enough to wish for something good, you have to control for the consequences. They decide their very next wish is gonna be to make sure the servants don't notice any changes, no matter how weird things get. They're learning the rules. And that leaves us with a pretty fascinating question, doesn't it? The children learned the hard way that the wording of a wish is everything. So if you had one wish, knowing it would vanish at sunset, how would you phrase it perfectly to get exactly what you want with absolutely no disastrous side effects? Think about it.